Let's take it away.
Correct. Let me just share my screen. Okay, perfect. Welcome everyone. Can you hear me okay, Peter?
Yep, coming through great.
Okay, so I'm doing a session I did at Microsoft 365 Chicago a few weeks ago. So my goal at the end of this is that you guys are all going to be starving and for pizza, and you're going to order from Uber while I'm chatting because I got these nice pictures everywhere, some nice deep dish pizzas. So today we're going to be building an end-to-end real-life Chicago-style pizza ordering solution, right? Where we're going to be demoing on how we can use the capabilities within the Power Platform, all the stuff we just talked about, Power Apps, Power Virtual Agents, Power Automate Flows, all within Microsoft Teams to create apps really easily. And, Peter, your question on forms, on when do you use the different types of forms, and especially on SharePoint Online, Power Apps is a really easy, good use case, especially with the new licensing of Dataverse for Teams. I'm not going to go into a whole discussion on Dataverse for Teams and what that all is and what you're getting there, because if we do that, that's going to be a whole day session on licensing. But we're kind of really want to focus today on the demos because you guys are a little bit more technical than the ordinary group. So we'll get into a demo. For anybody who doesn't know me, a long-term TSPUG attendee and such. I'm also VP Technology at two companies, CreoSpark and CloudSpark. CloudSpark, we build Teams-based apps, and CreoSpark, we do Microsoft 365 services consulting. And that's my contact information if anybody wants to get a hold of me. Here's an example of, and I'm just going to hide this guy, but on the CloudSpark side of the equation, we build Teams apps using the full dev stack behind the scenes, provider hosted. We all hosted on the Azure side of the equation. So using all the React and Node and all the cool tools in the back end that you guys are all aware of. But these are some of the apps that we have launched right now. The Leave app, where you're kind of requesting time off directly in Teams, and it stores all the information. You can do some powerful capabilities, things like accruals, you can do rollovers, you can do time in lieu tracking. So all of the enterprise grade leave capabilities that we'd expect in big high-end HRIS systems like Workday and SuccessFactors, SAP. We've kind of taken that functionality and put it right within a Teams app. So if anybody's interested on that, reach out. We're giving some free trials away. And especially for partners, Peter, if you're using an HRS or any of the members here, reach out and we can get you a hold of this, right? And see how you guys like it. And then it uses the Power, with shared calendars, so you can see everybody's time off. It'll kind of bot message you with a notification for approval. You can tie in your Power Automate flows as well, because we have custom connectors there. So if you guys have special processes based on the leave type, right, and everybody has their own types of policies and stuff, so the system is really flexible. The second app we just launched at the beginning of the month was an app called, instead of requesting time out of the office, now after the pandemic, you got to request time back into the office. So what we've done now is actually built an app, and let's see if I can play these. Yeah, we built an app which basically it's like an Airbnb experience where you as an administrator go in and configure the policies for each of your buildings and offices because of all the pandemic policies and capacity regulations and surveys. So you go request a time, and what that does is based on the buildings you have configured for your organization, it'll give you like the slots available for each office, for how many people you want. Really, really intelligent. It'll tell you the amenities at each office that you're booking at, how long you're going to be at each, and such. And then before you enter, it'll give you like the COVID screening and flexible policies. So that's another app that we just launched at the beginning of the month. So anybody's interested in that, again, reach out to us on the CloudSpark side. But really here, we're here to talk about Dataverse for Teams. So we want to kind of teach you out of this to how to use this built-in low-code platform within Teams called Dataverse for Teams. And we want you to understand the built-in relational data storage, rich data types, app development that comes with Dataverse for Teams. You guys are coming from the SharePoint stack, a lot of you guys, and you guys have been working with it for years. And I don't know how many times you guys have gone into a customer and seen that and asked them, where they have lookup after lookup on columns and lists, and you basically ask the customer, like, you should have built an application for this. It shouldn't be built on SharePoint lists, right? And it should be built on a relational database, some sort of more powerful database than just the SharePoint list. Not saying that SharePoint lists are not very flexible, but there is a good time to use them or not, right? So that's where you go to a real relational database like Dataverse and Dataverse for Teams. And again, if anybody has any questions, like, this is very casual, we're cozy, so just interrupt me. Let's make it personal as well. What we're going to do is also build, after we build the data source, we're going to build workflows and intelligent chatbots using PBAs and Power Virtual Agents, Power Automate flows to help with that teamwork and post messages to teams. And then we're going to start by describing the scenario and what we're looking for from a business outcome perspective, but we're going to keep it to mostly demos because that's what you guys are here for. So, does anybody have any questions before we begin?
I'm not too familiar with Dataverse for Teams, so I know you didn't want to go too deep into licensing, but just at a high level, is it included with your Teams subscription? Is it part of a particular 365, or is it a separate standalone Power Platform type of subscription?
That's a great question. So I actually will go into it then. If people are interested, just give me a second. I'll dig up my other presentation. I gotta figure the last one that I did.
Or if you want to follow up later, I don't want to derail your flow here.
No, I just I got in a presentation that I did for the marathon, so maybe that's a good one. I got it handy. Don't worry about it. Okay, so let's switch to this presentation. So Dataverse for Teams was officially launched in September 2020 at Microsoft Ignite, so last year in September, as Dataverse for Teams. They actually had a different name for it, which they had to change because somebody had that other name, and I can't remember, it was Data something, but whether they actually changed it to Dataverse. You can think of Dataverse, if you've done the Power Platform, you know the CDS, which is the Common Data Service, and so they renamed the Common Data Service to Microsoft Dataverse. Okay, and then they kind of wanted to have a light version of that Common Data Service in Microsoft Teams, so they named that Microsoft Dataverse for Teams, which has Power Automate, Power Virtual Agents, and Power Apps built into it. Now, there's different licensing it'll come with it, but basically, if you have a Microsoft Teams license, then you're going to get it. So here's some of the background and fine print about Dataverse for Teams. So it's like a light version of the Common Data Service, right? Common Data Service, as we all know, hopefully, when you guys are developing business apps and using Dynamics 365 platform, that's all built on Microsoft Dataverse for the most part, all the modern capabilities. So now they're bringing it to the Power Platform based apps, and they're bringing it more available to everybody else. So that CDS that powers the Dynamics platform, they're bringing it for everybody to use. And this is a light version of it. So it currently supports up to 500 teams, and I think they just increased that to 1,000 or 2,000. This is an old presentation. Now, the thing to know about this is when you're creating your apps, what Microsoft, I think, is trying to do is they're trying to get more adoption on Microsoft Teams. As you know, like they're up to over 150 million active users per day. So what they're trying to do is get more people using it by building apps with Teams. So what they're saying is that I'm going to give you guys this powerful capability for free, but you have to have it within Teams. So when you create a app, it's tied to a Microsoft team. So when you go and press the Create Team button, it's tied to that. And in the back end, as Orly said, a little light version of an environment is created. And I won't go into the details of what an environment is. I'll show you a demo there. So it only works within Microsoft Teams web app mobiles. Guest users can also run these apps, but they can't install, create, or edit them. You can, the cool thing is, if you kind of go past the capacity of that light version items, then you can actually upgrade to a full-fledged Microsoft data environment as you need. You just need to make sure you have the appropriate licensing, Power Apps per user or per app licensing, and then there's a whole bunch of other licensing considerations there, which I'm not going to go through. If you can also use premium connectors, so by default you can't use any. You can only use standard connectors that come with it. However, and that usually connects to the Dataverse Lite version that it's coming with. But if you have a paid SKU, or in your company has that paid SKU of the per app or per user license, you can use those premium connectors. So if you want to connect to a SQL Server database, or REST call, or a web service, or an Azure database and such, you can do that. You're limited to 1 million records. That's one thing to note. This light environment is created when you create a Dataverse for Teams app, which maps one-to-one to the team you created. You have a maximum 2 gigabytes of relational database storage for environment. Really, it's only 1.5 gigabytes, because I'll show you in a minute that they use 500 gigabytes already for the framework of the Dataverse. So you get about 1.5 gigabytes of space. Ideally, that should be enough for most of the use cases, but sometimes it's not if you're storing images and such. But if you're storing images, you have the Microsoft team, so you could use the Microsoft team, the team site that backs the Microsoft team to store your storage. You could build some complex table relationships. But the only thing is, you've got basic data types like Dataverse. The full-fledged version of Microsoft Dataverse has these really powerful data types, and Dataverse for Teams does not come with the really powerful ones, but it'll have most of the ones you guys need, right? And it has more than what we're used to, us old school SQL Server DBAs and modelers. You'll have all those fields that you're looking for, but some of the more powerful ones they don't give you. Unlike Dataverse, the full-fledged version, it doesn't have an offline mode. It doesn't have a built-in search. It doesn't have field level security or API access. So that's the thing. That's some of the limitations. Does that help, Peter?
Absolutely. Thanks, Rez.
That kind of gives you an overview of that. Okay. Okay, let's go back there. Okay, so I'm going to skip over this one. I'm assuming most of you guys know about the Power Platform. If you don't, then this is basically a high-level diagram of the Power Platform and a lot of the components. There's a lot more that I haven't shown here, but basically it's the common data service now called Microsoft Dataverse, Power BI, Power Apps, Power Automate, data connectors, AI builders, and Power Virtual Agents for chatting. So Power Apps, you can think of where you're building your app. Power Automate, any kind of instant or scheduled or cloud flows you want to create. Dataverse for Teams, or the common data service, that's where the database is. And behind the scenes, it's a really rich, powerful database. We're using, all the scalable things, so you don't have to worry about the administration of it like we did in the old days. Indexing, that's all taken care of for you, right? So in the cloud, and it's all load balanced and such in the back end. And then you got data connectors and AI builder as well. So those green kind of the green kind of rectangle there shows where Dataverse is coming in right now, but Microsoft every day is kind of expanding it, and I wouldn't be surprised in the future if they incorporate an element of Power BI in there too, as long as you stay within the Microsoft team, because they just announced that Microsoft Lists now are going to have an analyze capability, which is a light version of Power BI, so I wouldn't be surprised if it comes to Dataverse as well.
Interesting.
Yep. Okay. Okay, so I did have this. Okay, so today's demo. So what are we going to demo today? And I'm going to try to do it in the hour that we have, and hopefully faster, so we can get everybody out of here by 8. Pizza ordering. And if you're not hungry already, go to Uber, order it. Hopefully it'll be here before I'm done. The idea here is that the customer is going to place the order over the phone to a restaurant or such. The receptionist is going to fill out the order information right from a Microsoft team. The staff is going to mark, the staff or the chef or the cook is going to mark the order as complete, and they're going to inform the receptionist. And then the cook can see what the details of the next order is. So if you look at it from a technology perspective, what we're going to do first in this demo is we're going to create the data source. And really simple scenario. We're not going to go complex here because the amount of time we have, because we're trying to do an end-to-end solution. But step one is we're going to create the data source in Dataverse for Teams. Maybe 2 tables, something like pizza and orders. With that pizza and orders, the orders is going to store the customer name, and then it's going to reference the pizza they want to order. We'll create the metadata in the columns in that table, and then we're going to add some data. So one of the things you'll constantly hear from me is when you're building Power Apps, it's always nice to start out with data because the screen kind of adjusts with the data, and not like old school where we'd actually have to populate a database afterwards and create our data source and such. Let's just work with real data here. Step 2, we're going to build a Power App. So we'll create the intake form, the order intake form, and the all orders form. We'll add all the fields and the buttons and all the components of it. And you'll see how easy it is to do that and connect it to the data source. Everything that I'm showing as well, guys, you can do pretty much connected to a SharePoint list as well. So I think I came to one of the other, actually it wasn't this user group, but the citizen developer user group a few months ago, and I showed how to do this using a SharePoint list as well. So it's pretty cool. And a lot of our customers, before Dataverse for Teams was introduced, they were using SharePoint lists because that comes free without any additional licensing for your Power Apps. And Orly, you could probably agree that a lot of customers want to stick to the licensing they have, right? So and use SharePoint as a data source, and it works great. You just have to be aware of some of the limitations there. Step 3, we're going to create Power Automate flows. So the concept here is that we want the cooks or the staff to mark the order as complete and inform the receptionist via the Microsoft Teams via chat message. And then in the end, we want to create like a Power Virtual Agent, which is a chat bot, very simple one, which basically finds the next order. And so if the cook wants to know what's my next order, I got to cook. That's what we got to do. So let's actually just start the demo. Any questions before I begin? Does everybody understand the scenario we're trying to accomplish? Perfect.
Yeah, I'm glad I had dinner already. Thanks.
Okay. Did you already order?
No, it was burger nights.
Okay, so first thing we're going to do is, this is my demo environment. I'm going to go and create a team. Okay, everybody hopefully is already using Teams. We're going to create a team from scratch, and we'll give it something like a private team, and a name of pizza orders. I've got stuff on my clipboard just to make it a little bit faster, the demo, and get everybody out of here. So we're not going to order anybody. We'll just assume there's people in that team, and you'll get the idea. The cooks and the staff and the receptions are already ordered there. So we're going to start with our team. What's going to happen behind the scene after we create the Power App, they're going to create a whole bunch of environments and such, right? So if we go to admin.powerplatform.microsoft.com here, and we go to the environments here, you can see all the environments, and you see this new, if you've never seen Dataverse for Teams and you're just used to the regular CDS and the Dataverse, then you normally just see this, but now there are these new ones. So as I've been creating these kind of demos and such, you get to see all the environments that are creating. So this is what Orly said last time. You can create different environments, but with Dataverse for Teams, when you create a new app, it's tied to the team, and each you can see, if I were to refresh this after I create my app, we'll have a pizza ordering environment for that one. And when I dive into my environment, I have the capability to upgrade to a full-fledged version of the Dataverse. So if you ever need to upgrade it past the 1 million mark or past the capacity regulations for that light version, you can always upgrade it. Obviously, you have to have the right licensing. You got the same backups capability. You got to see all the Power Apps that are as part of that, all the forms. You get to see all the workflows that are part of that, and such right here. So
Rez, those limits are per environment, not per tenant?
Per environment, yes.
Okay, so you can have 500 environments each at that.
You know what? I think it's actually 1,000 to 2,000 now. So
okay.
And they keep on increasing it. So especially for enterprises. Okay. Because the idea, Peter, is that they want the regular citizen integrator to go and develop these, even though we all know on the IT field, they'll get it to the 20% mark, then they'll have to come to us anyway. Right? Okay. The other thing I want to show you here before we go is capacity. So before, if we look here under the capacity, under the Power Platform Admin Center, we've got this new thing here called Microsoft Teams that was not here before. Okay, so we just had Dataverse or CDS before, and this shows us the Dataverse. But if we go to Teams, here's the each team with the Power App that I've created. So as you can see here, 512 out of 2 gigabytes. So pretty much 500 megabyte out of that 2 gigabytes is taken by the structure. And I don't know if I said gigabytes before. Anyway, okay, so that's kind of how you see the capacity you have. So let's go back to our team, and I'm a stickler. Whenever I create my teams, I like to put a picture there, and I want to keep on making you guys hungry. So let's go find a picture of a pizza, deep dish. There we go. So now my team is the TSPUG Pizza Orders team. Our cooks are a part of this team. Our receptionist is part of this team. So that's the start. So now the next step we're going to do is, let me just make sure that there's no questions. I'll open that up on a separate screen. Okay. Yes, I am bribing you to develop on Teams, Russell. Okay. Great. So what we're going to do is create an app. And what you do is, first thing you're doing is you're going to go to the App Store and find the Power Apps app. If you don't have it already installed, you'll find it. Just do a search on Power Apps. And if you go to the apps on your left-hand side, obviously this has to be enabled by your IT folks. And here is the app when I did a search for it, front and center. All right. So I'll click on that and I'll install that. I already have it installed. So when you have it installed, the good thing is if you guys are going to do a lot of this, just pin it here. It makes it a lot easier to get to. So I'll go to my pinned version of the app. Okay, so when I go to that pinned version of the app, what I want to do first is I'm going to take you through, I'll guide you through all this a little bit later, but you got a home build about, home and build are where you're going to be at. This is when you're going to start and create a new app. So what we're going to do is first create a brand new app. We will call it we'll just call it the same thing as we called the team name of TSPUG Pizza Orders. But first we got to choose the team we created. So here's the team we created. And remember, it's tied to a team. So as soon as I do this, what it's doing on the back end is going and creating that environment. So that's where it's going to provision that 2 gigabytes of Microsoft Dataverse for Teams capacity. So if I go back here and I go to environments, if we're lucky, it might have already created it. Here we go. So it's telling us the state as well, preparing instance. Cool. Good. Now, after this is done, it only takes a few seconds. If we go refresh here, it's going to message us and tell us that it's ready. Let's just see. Here, the environment is ready, so it's telling us it's ready. Now, I got a message, an activity feed message saying that the Dataverse for Teams environment is up. It's a nice thing that they let you do. Before, like I was in the private preview, and this would take like 2 to 5 minutes. That's why you kind of, but now that it's in production, it's actually a lot faster. So we'll give it a name, just like I said, from there. And anybody who's familiar with Power Apps, this is very similar to the view that you're using in your Power App Studio, in your Maker Studio. Okay. So you've got your screens that are listed here. They list them all here. You've got your components. You've got your back capability, undo, redo. You've got your name of your app, save, a preview. You can also press the Alt button to actually live preview it. This is when you're done with the app, you can publish it to Teams. You got the ability to connect stuff to Power Automate. You got your collections and variables and such. App checker in case you have any formulas. One of the new things they just introduced was Power FX, which is kind of the low-code kind of programming Excel-like formula platform, which they're pitching all the citizen integrators to use. And it's really easy to use, but they're making it even more easier. I'm not sure if you guys heard about the new capability where you can actually just say, there'll be a piece of text box here that says, show me all the orders from 1979 onwards, and then it'll go generate the Power effects for you. So they're making it really, really cool. And then they're also doing another mechanism where you give it an example of, greater than 1979, it'll automatically create the formulas for you. So they're bringing this more and more to citizen integrators, so they don't have to know formulas and stuff. Okay. So you've got, I'll give you a tour here. So what else you have here? This is our tree view where we're going to build out our screens. This is where we want to add our labels and buttons and such. This is our data source, so we're going to create our tables and such. This is for our variables and videos and images and such that we have there. So let's go back to our tree view. This is our property pane on the right-hand side. Just decrease this one, property pane. So as I click on stuff, this is contextual, it'll change. This is my zoom, this is full screen mode, and then you could switch to the different screens down here. So next, so we talked about we're doing a pizza ordering solution. So the first thing we want to do is create our data sources. Okay, so our data sources in this side are going to be two tables. And what we're going to do is go to our data here, and we're going to create a new table. So our first table will be pizza. Okay. You notice in the advanced setting, it already gives us a plural name, so you don't have to do that. So we'll click the create button. And when you create a new table, by default, it'll give you the first column, which is name. And the name, we'll just use that column because it's already there. And then I want to add another column again, because let's call it picture URL. Okay. And in this case, it's going to be a URL. URL by default, I don't know why they don't make it 255 as a max length, but I'm just going to throw that in. So picture URL. So this table is really simple. It's got two columns, picture, name of the pizza, and URL. So the first pizza, and like I said, you always want to populate it because it makes it easier as you're building the app. So first one is deep dish cheese. And then what I'll do is I'll paste a picture in from Illuminati's in Chicago. I'm not sure if anybody's been there, but it's a great picture. There, some nice pictures of some deep dish pizzas, right? Because that's what I want to render in my app. Next pizza. So let's do a, how about a veggie? Don't forget about my vegetarian folks. So we'll do a veggie with a picture there.
And then Rez, does Dataverse have a concept of internal and display names like SharePoint? Like we would never create it with a space because you'd end up with the %20 in the name and stuff like that.
No, you don't. I don't think you have to really worry about that. There are internal fields, which I'll get to in a bit, but I don't think you have to worry about that because it's just like a relational database from a column perspective and everything. You kind of have a UI to select all the stuff, basically. Does that make sense?
Yep.
And then the Power Apps, they're able to reference it with an apostrophe, like you put an apostrophe there, and then you just put the full table name. Okay. So there's our first table, pizzas. Okay, as you saw, I just added a new table and it showed up on my data section here, my first table called pizzas. Before I do anything, I'm going to save it and show you. This is one way you can create tables, but there's another powerful, this is kind of the light version of the data creation view and the data source. There's another more powerful version. If you hit the back button here and you go to build here, and I'll go to my TSPUG pizza orders team here. And when I click on the see all, it's a more nicer view that I like to stay on, and where it shows me all the apps, all the chatbots, all the cloud flows, all the tables and other things that are part of my Microsoft team here. So I like using this view, and it's a more in-depth view. So if I click on pizza here, I see all the columns here, but I have the capability to see all the behind the scenes columns that are created when you created that one table. So created on, created by, modified by, modified on, etc. So a lot of these columns that you'll see we're going to be able to use throughout our flows as well. But for now, we just want to see our custom columns. Next thing we're going to do is we want to create an orders table. So we'll click on the new, and you notice it's a different interface. So we'll call this one order, and we'll click on the create button. And then this one, you see it's a different view. It shows you the name, the data type, the type. It's more information than you did from that light one. You can see any relationships you have with the other tables you have. You can manage the permissions and such here. So now we're going to add a few more columns. So name, it gives us the name with the order. So what we'll do is we'll assume that the name, that's the person's name who's ordering it, right? So we'll just assume use that customer name. Perhaps we want their email to message them using a flow. Now here's the additional data types we get in this full-fledged view, and then the light version of Dataverse, which is Dataverse for Teams, has these. And then if you go to the fully fledged version of Dataverse, you're going to get a whole bunch of different, more complex data types. So here we're going to select email, And then the next one, we want to add pizza. And then pizza would be a lookup because there's going to be a relationship. So we just select lookup here. And then what's the table? Pizza. Okay, and then the last one we want is kind of like a column just to signify that the pizza is ready or not. So let's just add a column called ready. And this one's going to be Boolean. In this case, they want to make it more citizen friendly. So they say yes, no, and default to no. Okay, so I think that's pretty much it for our two tables. But as I said, when we're building our data out, let's make sure we have data in there because it makes our lives a lot easier as we're building out the apps. So let's do Peter Carson first. We don't need your email, petercarson.com. So what pizza is yours? Classic?
Let's go with Chicago Classic, yeah.
Let's do classic. Okay, how about Orly?
I'm on keto, but let's do the cheese.
Cheese without the crust? How about that?
Oh,
I don't know
yeah.
if you can do that.
Cauliflower crust.
Okay, and then who else do we have here? How about Roy Kim? We got to, sorry, I'm not going to give you a choice here, but because we got to select the third one, which is the cheese. Because Roy's jokes are sometimes very cheesy. Joking, man. Okay, so none of the records could be saved. What do we do here? Oh, here, this is not an email. So did you see we selected the email data type and it was able to validate it?
It's been smart.
Being smart. So let's just make sure the data's there that I entered. Okay, there. So our data is there. We're good. Okay. Okay, so one thing that I did want to note is this. So this is the internal column name, Peter, that's created for us.
Right.
So I just want to.
But it's more like dynamics, I guess, because that's the roots of CDS, and now Dataverse is how it creates those solution/name type fields.
Exactly. It's all built within from the Dynamics framework from CDS, right?
Right.
Can I just add something? If we go to the relationships tab, we can see that lookup field that is doing the one-to-many relationship there that we modified for the pizza.
Here's this one, and then here's the related table right here.
Right.
And it's a many-to-one. Cool. Thanks for pointing that out, Orly. Okay, so now we've created our data source now. Oh, question, sorry.
No, I was saying many-to-one. I said one-to-many, but it's actually many-to-one, yeah.
Okay. Okay, so now we're going to create our form. So we've got our data, and so then we're going to go to our apps. So we've already created the framework of our app, and it's there. We'll go and go to apps and click on the edit button. And then now we're going to start building this thing out. So as I said, we want to make this a really simple app. One form where they first come to the form where they show all the orders that are in queue, and then you want to drill down into an order intake form. So there's basically two forms. So the first form is, I would say, the all order screen. So let's go and modify this guy to be the all order screen, the name. And then in this all order screen, we want to change the layout of this guy to kind of be a list. So if I go to layout and then scenarios here, and then this would just be a list. So really simple. So Power Apps generates this stuff for us really nicely, right? So this thing here is called a template gallery. And template galleries follow you all over this. Galleries follow you all over. So the cool thing about galleries is that you just have to change the first item, and then the rest of the items change. And you'll see that in a few minutes. So what we want to do is point this template gallery list to our data source, and we don't see we don't want to show the pizzas. We want to show the orders. So what we'll do is we'll select the orders table, and you notice how it automatically took a stab and made the form for us with the data. Really nice. So we're already part of the way there. Okay, so now, so that's kind of what we've done here. So now I've selected Peter, but then I want to create my next form, my next screen here. So what we're going to do is create a new screen, and we're going to you just click on the new screen button, And it's just going to be a scrollable list. And we will name this guy order intake. Okay, on this data card, what we're going to do, so this is the data card. We want to add an edit form because a form basically allows you to create data or edit data. So what we'll do is click on the plus button here, and we'll just drag this edit form in. And what I like to do, and I'm just going to put this on my clipboard and go back to my tree view here. Just make sure my edit form is in my data card, so it sits under there as a child.
Hey, can you go back a few steps? I'm really curious. You created a new screen, and on the screen was a data card, and
Yes.
That's not the way it used to work in the old non-Dataverse Power Apps. The data card was always in a form, not on a screen. Did something change there?
I'm honestly, I don't know offhand. Orly, do you know?
Yeah, the data card here is because you chose a screen that has those containers. So it's already integrated into the screen to do that. So if you go new screen and then you choose the one that is not blank, then it would do those containers. So you chose the scrollable. That ones already have containers within it because the image needs to know that, okay, this is my first container, and then below it it's my second container, and then that basically that's why you have those data cards there.
Okay, so if you use containers, you got to put you use data cards in the containers like you do in forms.
If you use a scrollable screen instead of the blank, then you get those data cards. If you choose the blank one, then you don't get the data cards.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay. Good. So now I've got my form here, and this is kind of going to be what I'm working with here on the form. That's where I'm gonna attach that form to my data source. So the data source, I'm attaching it to orders. So I'll click on orders, and it automatically shows the columns from the orders table. So we'll just make this look a little bit nicer, make it a one column layout. What else we want to do here is we want to attach this one to the in the all order screen, the one that's selected. So the one that's selected right now is the first one. So we're going to go to this drop down here, and we will go to what is the field? Is it item? Okay, so let me just find the item guy. And then this one is, we're going to point to that template gallery. And the one that's selected. You see how Peter was the first guy, so he started showing up the data. So that's the item that this form is going to show up automatically. Okay. So now what we're next going to do is we want to show a picture. There's a couple fields here, and we might not want those fields. So let's go and choose the fields we want from that table. It takes a stab at thinking. We won't show the ready one, but we do want to show which pizza it was. So let's do a search on the pizza. That one, right? Because they want to select the pizza from the drop down. And Peter had the deep dish Chicago classic. And we also want to, I would say, add a picture. So we'll go click on the plus here. We will find an image here and drag this guy here. Again, want to make you guys all hungry. We'll set this to fill just to make it look a little nicer. And then what you do here to actually get this to show the right image. So again, from the template gallery, the one that was selected, and we go, what pizza was it? But this isn't enough because pizza is a like a child table, right? So then we just do another dot, and then we just go to the name, right? Oh, sorry, not name, URL. So we added a picture of that to the URL. So now we got the pizza showing. Pretty nice way to.
Or also we can use dot this item dot picture URL. I believe it will work as well.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that one because you're not, because it doesn't know this item, but we could try that a little bit later. So what we'll do is what else I wanted to show you here was take a look at this title. One of the cool things to note here, if I go back to the tree view, is this Teams context here. So just like with you guys are SharePoint framework, you got your SharePoint context, and you can actually get to your Teams context as well. So this Teams context allows you to do some cool things. So as an example, if I want to get the current name of the team that I'm in, because I'm going to be publishing this to a team, I'm able to get this team dot display name as an example, right? So if I'm a developer and I'm doing all my logic based on all this stuff, then I might need to get some information about the team I'm in. So in this case, what I'll do is just put the team name in front, and then dot selected, and then the customer name on this side. Right? Here's a customer name. Right now, nothing's going to show up because I'm not in a Microsoft team. So let's do a couple other things here. Let's add because you're going to get to this screen, you're going to need to get back somehow. So let's add a back button. So from right here, we're going to add a back button. So I'll just do a quick search on back. So let's drag this to back, and then, maybe make this by 70 by 70. You can't really see it, so let's change the color to white. Okay, that looks a little bit nicer. Move it up a bit. Now, in order to go back, what we want to do is on select, we just go to this drop down. It by default selected it. We would do something like back to what is the cover page in our solution. Okay, so that's going to get us back to the previous page we were on. So now we need a mechanism where we could save and submit it. So we'll add that button in a bit and actually do the logic to save it. But then we also need a mechanism for the cook or the pizza maker or the chef to go and say, the order is ready, come pick it up, to the receptionist, right? So let's add a button here as well. Basically tell the receptionist so that the receptionist can be notified by the chef that the pizza is ready. So let's make this a little bit bigger. Move it up. It's a pretty ugly button, so let's change the colors. So this button, and then the font, and then white, and then change the text of it. Is ready. Let's make it bold, maybe about 30. There we go. So there's a nice little button. So when they click on that button, we're going to at this point integrate a Power Automate flow to basically notify the receptionist that the pizza is ready. Okay, and then we're also going to be changing the data source, the ready flag, the yes/no flag we created, to set it to be yes. Okay, but we're not going to do that here in the app. We could do it in the app, but let's do it as part of a Power Automate flow because I want to show you how you guys can use the cloud flows to really extend these types of solutions. Okay. Next thing we want to do on this screen is we want to create a button to submit it, as I said. So we'll add another button here. And then I just want to make sure, and sometimes this works, sometimes I not. I like to put it under the form. So here's our submit button. Let's make it a different color, maybe about 50. And the text should be submit. Okay, so there's our submit button, but that submit button isn't hooked up to anything. So on select of that submit button, what we want to do is submit the form. So we'll just go to the on select. Right now it's just false. So what we'll just do is submit the form, and this is an out of the box kind of method there. So we're submitting the form. We just have to say which form we're submitting. So it's the form 1 we're submitting. And then after we submitted it, we want to navigate back to the all order screen. Okay, so that's all hooked up now. Now, another thing, just from a best practice perspective, you guys should know if you're building these types of things, Microsoft has given us some default notification type of stuff like on success and on failure with a nice banner that shows up at the top. You should try to start using these types of things. So there's a little command there that you can just put on success what you're doing is you can notify that the order has successfully been edited, and a success, and navigate back to the cover. And then on failure, you can do the same type of thing. Okay, so there's our notifications on success and failure. So we're pretty much done with this form, I would say. So let's go save it, make sure we don't lose anything. Now we got to do a little bit of work on the all orders form and the all orders screen. So let's go back to the all orders. This one's pretty ugly. So the first thing we want to do is change. We want to get the pizza to show here. So let's make it bigger and fill it. And here is where we use this item. So the image is this item dot pizza, I think, dot URL, picture URL. There we go. The different pizzas are showing up. Now, as I said earlier, you just have to modify the top item and it automatically modifies the rest of them for you. So you don't have to worry about that stuff. So I'm going to drag these two up. What we'll do is we will make it a little bit smaller. And then the cool thing is if I just want to have another one, actually first, let's make this a little bit nicer from a interface perspective. We could add, you know, customer name, right? And this one would be customer email. And you notice as I'm doing this, the second and third rows are being updated. You just have to update the first one. And the other thing we want to do properly is, you know, what pizza they ordered. So let's copy and paste that text box and then, or that label, and we'll say pizza and this item dot pizza and then dot name. Okay, so now that's pretty much the information we need. We'll do one more thing. We want to signify on this screen whether the pizza is ready or not. So what we'll do is we'll copy and paste that thing and we'll change this to be something like ready. And then we added a field there, right? On the orders saying ready. Okay, and no, and let's make this a little bit bigger in terms of the font side and the color. Let's change the background to green. Click off, whoops. Font color to white. Let's make it a bigger font. Let's say 30. And I think that's good enough. Okay, so right from this screen, you can see if the pizza is ready or not. Okay, the next thing we want to do on this screen is what happens if there's a new order. So there's two things we need to do. We need to basically, actually, we should change the title here to be all orders. You need to a button to say a new order, and then we need to hook up this arrow here to go to the next screen. So we'll add another button here for a new order button. We'll add that here.
If I was going to throw my 2 cents worth in,
Yep.
Ready, no, green, I would probably select red if it's not ready, green if it is. Then you know, but of course, there's colorblind people and, you know, what have you, but.
Yeah, most definitely. You could do those formulas to easily do that using Excel.
Yeah. That's kind of why I'm sort of saying it, to see if adding a formula like that in there. I've done a lot of these forms. So.
Yeah, definitely. I would have to look up how to do that formula right now. I don't have that handy. Probably. So here's my button, and the button is the text that I want to put is new order. New order. Let's change the font, the color. Let's make this maybe 25. Make it bold. Okay, you guys can see how easy it is to build out these things without any code, right? So when they select the new order, so what we want to do is on select of this guy, is we want to navigate to the intake form that we created, but first we want to reset it because it's populated by default with the selected item. So we're going to reset it. Then we're going to call this one for a new form. And add a new record there, and then we're going to actually navigate to it. So we'll navigate to that order intake screen, and then we'll go to this cover screen on that one. Okay, so that's going to take us to an empty form of that order intake. Okay, so next thing we want to do is hook up this arrow, and on select of this arrow, we want to do a few things. We want to reset the form. We want to make sure it's an edit form for form 1, and then we want to navigate to it. Okay, so I think we're pretty much ready with the app. Let's save it, make sure that it's all good. And then the next thing we want to do is let's hit the back button here. It's saved. We could actually preview it right now, but I want to save that all for when it's attached to the Teams. Okay, and hopefully the demo gods were with me and it'll work, the demo. Okay, so here we have our app. We've created the one Power App here. We don't have any cloud flows or chatbots yet. We've got our tables. We're actually going to create a flow now because what we need to do is hook up that button that's saying the order is ready for the receptionist to be notified to go do it. So what we're going to do is go to this cloud flows on the left hand side, and we'll click on the new button, cloud flow, and it's going to be an instant flow. There's 3 types of flows: automated, instant, and scheduled. The one we're interested in is instant because there's a button that you have to press to make sure it does it. And we'll give it a name, something like order intake Power Up. I already got that from previous one. So, and we're going to select it from Power Apps, and this is how it's going to be triggered. We'll click on the create button. And then we got our flow designer. If anybody's used to flow.microsoft.com and the Power Automate designer, it's right within our Microsoft Teams interface. So really cool, right all here. So it's a Power Apps instant trigger that's going to happen. So a button that invokes it. The button needs to pass the row of the data that I'm in. So we're going to have to hook that up a little bit later. But the first step we're going to do is we're going to update Microsoft Dataverse. So we'll select the Dataverse connector, and we will find like an update a row action to set the ready column to be yes. Okay, so it automatically logged me in. It automatically will show, because I'm tied to that Dataverse environment and those tables there. We should have an orders table here. So let's go find the orders table. And then after I do that, it started populating all the rest of the columns here. We got name, email. The one that I'm updating is just this ready flag to be yes. Really, really, really easy. That's pretty much it. That's all I want to do here. The next step is after I update that ready flag, I want to perform a notification. And for my notification, what I'm going to do is message the team that we created in the general channel as the Flowbot. So I'll do a Flowbot channel and then sort on Microsoft Teams. So the one we're post a message as a Flowbot to a channel. So let's see if I can, let me find post message as a Flowbot to the channel. So that's what I'm doing here. First thing it does with this Teams connector, it's going to ask me which team do I want to connect to. So we'll go and find the team we created, TSPUG pizza orders. We only have one channel in there, the general channel. And the message here is going to be, as an example, the customers, whoever the customer's name is, his order is ready, you know, come pick it up or something like that, right? So from the update a row on the orders table, we have the fields we can reference on the right-hand side. And we know that name is the customer's name. So let's select that. And then we'll say names, order is ready, come pick it up, right? And then when we say come pick it up, we want to actually mention the person so they get a notification. And how you can do that is, I got on my clipboard here, is if you just put this the at in brackets and then their email. In this case, I'm just doing it as a admin account, and then they'll be notified. Okay, and then a headline could be order is ready. So that's pretty much it for that flow. So I think after the, oh, there was an order. So, oh, row ID. Okay, that was an important one. It's giving me an error saying that I forgot to do the row because I have to tell it what row I'm updating. So on this row ID, I'm going to ask in Power Apps because I don't know which row. The flow does not know which row. So I'm going to hit the save button. And this is the good thing about demos. Run into all these issues. We'll save that. It's going to be saving on the right-hand side. As soon as that's saved, let's go back and hook that up to this flow. So how we do that, so now that it's saved, we'll hit the back button and we'll go to our apps. We'll go and edit this app. We'll go to our order intake form. As soon as it loads up. Okay, so let's go to our order intake form, and this is the button we're going to hook up. Now, there's some little bugs that I found. So when you're hooking up your flows, make sure you select the method you want to hook it up to. In my case, it's on select. So on select, there's a little ellipse here is being able to point to your Power Automate flows you've created. So when I click on this, it should show the flow that we just created. So here's my available flow. So this is the one we just created that we're going to invoke as an instant flow from this button. So now it's given us the command to invoke the flow run, but it's expecting a parameter. The parameter is right here. If you look here, it is update row ID. And now how do I get the row ID? It's pretty much the same as we were doing it before. So we're going to get it from the template gallery, the one that was selected, the order that was selected. And this is just a GUID in the back end. Okay, so we're going to be updating that, and then we're just going to go back to the other page once it's submitted. Now, it's not going to, like, because the flow takes there's a little SLA of up to a few minutes to run. It might take a few seconds to run, so it's not going to show that it's ready right away, but the next time you refresh it, it'll be there. Okay, so now we've hooked up our flow. So let's actually hit the save button. And we're ready with our app. So let's publish it to Teams. Okay, so it's going to say which team. We've already tied to a team because this is tied to that environment and that team. We'll hit the next button. And you have to tell it what channel. We only have one channel, so we're going to select the general channel and we're going to hit the save and close. At this point, it's now this happens sometimes. I don't know why. Just keep on hitting the save button. There we go. Okay, so at this point, it's published to Teams. So now if I get out of here, so I'll go to the back button, I could actually go to my Teams and see the app. So when I hit that publish to Teams, you'll notice that it created a new tab in my team. So obviously, here's my team. Here's my general channel. Here's my post that I want to post my messages to. We're not really using files. We're not really using Wiki, but this is the app that it added as a tab. Okay, this is where our app's going to be. So what we will do is we'll select the app, and now it'll ask us for the connections. And here is our screens. So the first screen is the order screen. So as we can see, Peter ordered this, and then we go here, and we could do our edits here. So if I want to change the email address, submit. There's obviously little things like we could do. Whoever mentioned we could do formulas to change the color to red if it's not, yes if it is, etc. We can do, when you select this drop down, it'll change the picture. I don't have time to update it right now, but that's the concept here. If you click a new order, you can add a new order. So let's do Bill. And Bill, let's make him a veggie guy. Okay, so there's Bill, new record, so that worked. Demo gods are with me. See this little success message? This is what we said on the form success. Best practice, just add that so it's a green message. Let them know that it was a success. Now, the next thing we want to do is run the flow and like, let's see if the flow we created works. So I am done with the pizza as a chef. I've gotten my list of my orders. Bill's ordered this. Let's just, me as the cook, let the reception know it's ready. And you notice here, it actually put the other thing I want to show you, it put the team there that we talked about earlier. Right, so demigods are with me so far. So let's go and click the pizza is ready button. So pizza is ready. It didn't update right away because the flow takes a few minutes to run on the back end, depending on how fast. But in this case, it's an instant flow and it worked. And you notice that as soon as I did that, it prompted me, the flow bot, and in my message queue, it messaged me saying that Bill Brockbank's order is ready, come pick it up. And then I get a notification feed in my activity feed right there. So me as the receptionist, I'll know that the order is ready. So good. So now let's kick it up a notch and go to the next level. Does anybody have any questions before we go and start building the chatbot now? Okay, so let's go and build a chatbot. So we're going to go to our pizza orders. Again, we'll go to our nice tree view of the app chatbots cloud flows. So what we're going to do now is create a chatbot. And the purpose of this chatbot is so that the chef or the cook can find out what's the next order on his list. So we want to create a chatbot, which he can just poll at any point in time. What's my next order that I got to kind of make? Right, so let's actually create a chatbot that does that. So we'll go to chatbots here and we will create a new chatbot. In this one, we'll call it, we'll give it a name. And basically chatbots are really, really powerful because they can connect to your Dataverse. So for some of our customers, we've done ticketing systems, ordering systems. So if they're ordering a new laptop, you can just do it all from a bot. It prompts you for the types of laptops, types of equipment you want, when you need to buy and all that. So really powerful capabilities. We're doing a basic use case where we're just asking the bot, what's the next pizza that I need to make? So what we'll do is we'll say next TSPUG pizza bot. Okay, we'll give it a nice name. Okay, it takes a couple seconds to build out here, but the concept here is that for chatbots, you want to create these things called topics, and those topics are what the chatbot listens for. So the first topic we're going to be creating is a topic called next order, because that's really what we're doing. So I don't know why this showed up, but this is what we're doing here. So we're going to be creating topics. Now it takes a few seconds to kind of kick in here, but this is where all the topics are going to be listed here, and this is where we're going to be creating our topics. One of the cool things Power Virtual Agents gives you is all these sample kind of chatbot flows for you, where you can go and talk to the out-of-the-box topics it gives you, and you can enable them, disable them. So like a simple topics of when are you closed? Are there any stores? And it gives you that kind of threaded like question answer like thing. But we don't care about any of that. We're just going to create a new topic here. So the topic we're going to create is next. Let's get next order. Name it doesn't matter. No, next order. Okay, so what is the trigger phrases we want? Chefs and cooks lazy, so obviously next, right? Let's do a next order. What's next? What would they say in Chicago? Order. Right, so whatever you want, these are our trigger phrases. So once we're done with our trigger phrases, we're going to go to our authoring canvas. So our authoring canvas is where we kind of build our threaded kind of like chat. Now, in our case, here's our trigger phrase. What we want to do is call a flow in between that trigger when it's being invoked to call an action from Power Automate flow. So we're going to create a flow in between this. So we'll click on the create a flow button and just using the out of the box flow template. And then we'll give this, let's call it next order flow. A nice name. And so here is, we don't need to give it any inputs, but we need to do something in between and get the information and pass that information there. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to initialize a variable to store what that next order is. So what we'll do is we'll add an action. And was there a comment or a question there? Okay, so here we go. Thanks for that, Russell. Okay, so we're going to get the information from Dataverse, but first we need to create a variable to store it in. So what we'll do is we'll find a new variable option and we'll create a variable. And which one is that? That one is the initialize variable. No, and we'll just call this something like var next order. Make it a string. Nicholas is saying the screen is frozen. Is anybody else frozen? Are we good?
No, it's good.
Okay. Nicholas, you could watch the recording if your screen is frozen. Okay, so we've created our variable, and next we need to go to Dataverse to get the order information. For this one, let's make it really simple and just get the next order, the single order. So what we will do is filter on the Dataverse trigger, and on that Dataverse trigger, we want to list the rows from the orders table. So we will select the list rows. There's probably easier ways to do it, but I like to make my life hard. So I'll select the orders table here. And once I've selected that, there's some other things that I want to do on my orders table. So one of the things is I want to find out if it's ready. And you remember that internal field name? We need to kind of make sure that we filter on orders that are ready. So this is kind of that internal name for the ready field equals false, right? Because we don't want to pull up any orders that are already completed. We also want to sort by created on. So the earliest one, sort by created on. And this is an out of the box Dataverse column that it creates for us. So created on ascending. And then I think that's it. That should give us the information we're looking at. And we'll just pull the first one, the row count of 1. Right, so this is kind of going to give us the information we're looking at. Next thing we need to do is, because that's going to give us a bunch of rows, we need to kind of extract the information from those rows. So at this point, what we're going to do is we're going to add a control here. And this control here is going to loop through them and get us the information. I'm sorry if it's loud. My kids just got home and the dog's barking. Okay, so select an output from the previous step. So apply to each. So we want to get all the rows from that list rows. So we're going to go to on the list rows is telling us what we want here. And then we're going to get the value from the list of items. Okay. So, but this is going to be multiple items. So we know it's going to be 1, but we need to be, because we've only filtered the top 1 here. So we also want to perhaps in the text, when we give it back to the cook, saying the person's name and the pizza type, right? So we need to add an action here. And we want to get a row by ID from Dataverse because we want the pizza, because this value will have the pizza ID, but we actually have to get the pizza. So we'll filter here and we will find the get a row by ID here. We'll get it from the pizza because we got 2 tables. We got orders and pizzas, right? So we want to get the pizza name and any other information in case you want to add toppings and such at a later point. And the row ID for that is the value from here. So we'll go to pizza. We'll look for pizza here, and it should be from the value here. And then we'll see if we can find one called pizza and the value. That's what we're getting here. Okay, and then lastly, we've got the value there is we want to build that variable we just created. So we're going to add another one called set variable for that variable we initialized. And in this case, we just select the variable and we will say something like, when the person asks next order, we can say something like customer name, and then we will get the name from the list rows. So we don't want to get it from here. We'll get the name from the list row has ordered and then what's the pizza from this one? This is where we're getting the pizza. Obviously, best practice, you should go rename these so you guys can find them, but we'll go back to here and then we'll find the name from the get a row by ID. Here's the name. Okay. Lastly, we want to push that return value back to virtual agents. So we'll add an output here and we'll make it a text and we'll do the same thing for next order. And then the value is the variable next order. Okay, so let's see if this one works. So let's save this guy, make sure everything's good here. And at this point, we'll have to hook this flow back up to that chatbot we did because they're two separate. The interface is all intertwined, but we haven't hooked up the flow yet. Ideally, Microsoft would have had it automatically hooked up, but now we have to go back. We created it, but now we got to hook it up. So we got to call an action here. And then point to the next order flow, cloud flow we created. Okay, and then all we want to do is in the output message of the chatbot, we want to just pass out that variable. Okay, we'll save this guy. And then at this point, after it's saved, let's test it out to see if it works. Just loading up. Next. Okay, so there it tells us customer's name, Peter Carson has ordered a deep dish Chicago classic. Now you noticed here, you got your check marks here. It's really cool. Just like Power Automate flows, it'll tell you if you have any problems, and then you could go into the flow details as well to see how those ran as well. So if I look at this one here, it tells me all the steps of the flow and everything that happened, my variables, what their values were, what I listed, apply to each, and my output values. Lastly, Microsoft has not yet tied this to Microsoft Teams. So right now it's listed as a Power Virtual Agent. In the future, I think what Microsoft is going to do, allow you to publish this directly to a Microsoft Teams. But right now, when you hit the publish button, it actually just publishes it as a personal app. So as soon as I hit the publish one and I click on the open bot, so this will take a few seconds to do. But what it will do is open a personal app here, but at a later point in time, I'm sure they'll probably add the ability to add it to a team, because it all needs to work within Teams, because as soon as you go outside of a team, it requires a separate licensing. Okay, so let's go and open the bot now. And there's our virtual, and then we'll say order. And then that's the information. Cool. So that kind of gives you an end-to-end view of building an order system. And we didn't save that app there, but we can go and publish it back there if we need. Okay. Does anybody have any questions?
Very cool.
Good. So what I'll do just to close it off, I know we're at time. So what we did today, actually, before we do that, I do want to actually publish it just to show you guys. So I'm going to publish it to Teams.
So while you're doing that, Rez, question on application lifecycle management side of things. Like, can you put these resources into Git or DevOps or something and have some sort of source control, version control idea behind it?
They're just talking about launching that capability so that you can do it all to Git. But I'm not sure yet, but I've heard rumors that they're talking about doing that.
Cool.
So And here's our Power Apps, and we can just add that tab back. I don't know why it didn't do it there, but we saw it before. Okay, so just to close it off, what we saw today was that we used Microsoft Teams, Dataverse for Teams, Power Virtual Agents, Power Apps, and Power Automate. We created the data source for a pizza ordering solution. We created 2 tables, pizza and orders. Orders stored the customer name as well as a lookup to the pizza. We created 2 forms on the Power App side of the equation using Dataverse for Teams, which are tied to a team. The intake form, where you populate the form information or the order information and the user information, and then with the lookup to the pizza, as well as the all order screen. Then we created Power Automate flows. The first flow we created was so that the cook can let the receptionist know, and then we created a flow to update the ready flag in our orders table to be true. We then notified the receptionist via a chat message on the team and a notification, a personal app notification that the pizza was ready using that flow. And then we had another flow in the virtual agent we created, which basically is a bot that the cook can say, what is my next order and what's the customer name? That's kind of our end-to-end solution. Good.
So Rez, from a Power BI point of view, I'm assuming it's easy to pull the data from Dataverse into Power BI, and then in the future, you're thinking they may have the ability to have sort of a mini Power BI where you could build a dashboard of pizza orders and have that in another tab in your team?
Yeah, so right now you need a Power BI license. Obviously, if you have a Power BI license, then you could hook up to any of those data sources. It's just an environment, right? However, you need a license. But in the future, I'm hoping, because they've given Power Apps for free as part of Teams, that they'll give us the Power BI capability right there as well as part of Dataverse for Teams. But again, that's more of a licensing question on Microsoft's side. But it makes sense to me because they've started giving Microsoft lists Power BI capabilities with the analyze capabilities. Right. Good. Any other questions?
Yeah, I have one. I have one, Rez. So you went on through this. What would the effort be on an individual to learn most of the stuff starting at 0? Is it going to be something that's going to take a month to learn?
No, honestly, you guys saw within 1 hour, we practically did an end-to-end solution, even though it's not that complex, but you saw that we did an end-to-end solution, right? And
yeah, but it's not so much the solution, it's learning the products and putting
learning
it all together.
Before.
Yeah, so there's lots of resources out there on the training. So we at CreoSpark, we run App in a Days, Bill. So if you Google App in a Days, those are free, put on by Microsoft, where we'll take you through what we showed you today was a Canvas-driven app in Dataverse for Teams. We show you how to do Canvas-driven apps outside of Dataverse for Teams. We show you how to do model-driven apps. We show you how to do Power Automate flows. There's also robotics process automations using desktop flows. So there's all these app in a days, and I really think, given your level of experience, Bill, like you go to 1 or 2 of those, and you'll have the skill sets you're looking for.
I'm not
and
looking
also
for me. I'm looking for customer recommendations for them to go look at this. So they're liable to be a little bit on the green side for most of this stuff. And what they'll happen, right, is they'll get frustrated because they can't get anything that works. So the other side of that question is, what type of skills should they have before they start trying to do this? Is there a...
I would say at least Excel formula-based skills, like if you want to do some of those formulas. But again, like I said, on the formula side, Microsoft's trying to make it real language formulas. So, they're trying to make it closer and closer to the citizen developers without knowing that PowerFX language. But there's lots of resources out there. So if you want a list, let me know, Bill. Ping me, and I can see if I could dig some up.
I just would like to add to this. I have a Power user, not developer, and I pointed him to App in a Day and Power Automate Flow in a Day, and he just picked it up and he does amazing Power Apps. First on SharePoint list, and now he's moving to Dataverse, and it's really impressive. You have to find this guy.
Yeah.
So you'd have to be a bit of a self-starter, it sounds like, to get through some of this.
Absolutely. In terms of
that applies to any technology, really. I mean,
Well,
if you want to be an expert, you have to put time within it. I would say a couple months is if you want to become an expert. But for lower to medium complexity of apps, and this one would be on the lower scale of complexity, I think that it wouldn't be a problem for our clients to pick it up quite easily if already they are in IT and technology background.
no, I'm not looking for expertise. I'm looking for success. It doesn't work out very well if you point somebody at this and they can't be successful in any form because they get frustrated. That's
In terms of RPAs, it's working very good in our environment. We are getting the information from email and opening the legacy application. We're filling out the forms without any issues. So RPA is working also okay, especially
Good.
in unattended mode.
Yeah, and attended mode is they announced a month ago that Windows 10 attended mode is now free.
Yep.
So free licensing. So as soon as you go unattended mode or automatic mode, that's when you have to pay. But attended mode is good. It's good to go. So we have a customer that we've created a model-driven app, which has like a vendor or tenant onboarding process, and they go through the process. At the end, it gets updated to their JD Edwards database and uses a desktop flow to do that in unattended mode. So because those legacy systems like that, they're just a headache to get the data in, get the data out. So. Okay, great. I don't know if there's any closure remarks, Peter, Bill, Roy, Lewis.
Other than thank you for a great talk. Yeah, you have definitely piqued my curiosity. I'm going to have to look deeper into this.
Awesome.
Does
Good
this
stuff.
come with some free time to do this?
Oh, that doesn't exist these days.
Yeah. Do we know who's speaking next month, Peter?
I don't. Lewis, you're on the line, right? Do we have somebody queued up?
I was speaking to or emailing that David person that sent. I know Hugo mentioned, hey, I'll talk if you need me to, but I want to see if this if David gets back to me.
Well, why don't we do a quick raise your hand in Teams poll if you feel you would like to have sessions in July and August, and don't raise your hand if you feel, you know what, it's summertime. I don't know what's going to happen this summer. Maybe people will actually take vacations and we want the time off.
What subject are you interested in hearing?
Well, let's answer
that's
question
wide
first.
open,
Are we
yeah.
are we doing something July and August? So
Yeah,
are
that's a
folks
good question.
interested in doing
A
that?
lot of groups, I guess, do take the summer off, right? And
We have in the past. It's just been kind of weird last summer, this summer.
I'm biased.
No, you're totally allowed to vote, Victoria. So we got Ori saying yes.
Not many yeses, it looks like.
And Alexander.
I feel like I'm biased because I've been gone for so long. I don't know if anyone even remembers me. So of course I want sessions over the summer, but
Okay, so we got 3 yeses.
Okay.
I just don't think that borders will be open this summer. We'll stay here. We'll
True.
be ready for that.
Yeah, but there's always the cottages. There's always, there's getting away, and I get it. I'm good either way, so I'm not gonna,
Well, why don't I throw a quick forms, 1 question survey out? Hey, you're interested in July and August sessions, and send it to the group as a whole, so even folks that aren't on the call here can vote accordingly from that point of view. But assuming if we were going to, and even if we weren't, I mean, we need somebody in September. Did David have a topic in mind, or you're still waiting for something back from him on that, Lewis?
Yeah, I haven't seen. I thought I saw something, but no, I've searched my emails and I haven't received anything from him yet.
Okay. I mean, I've got a backlog of topics I can certainly present. You mentioned Hugo was willing to step in as well. I'm sure we can figure something out from that point of view. But yeah, let's, when I send the follow-up note, once I get the YouTube recording up, I'll include the link to the survey, and we can let people know if we're planning on doing July and August, or if we're going to pause until September.
Okay, sounds good to me.
Well, Noorez, once again, thank you very much for presenting. It was a great session.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Yep.
All right,
thanks.
have a good night, everybody.
Thanks a lot, guys.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Good night.